In yesterday's game against the New York Jets, the Pittsburgh Steelers looked really, really impressive in different moments of that game. Now, they had some struggles defending the run. They had some struggles running the football themselves, but they looked pretty damn good. Now, Broderick Jones gave up 3 sacks. We're going to break it down because watching the game, I did not feel like the 3 sacks that he gave up, I didn't feel like he had a bad football game. He looked pretty good to me while kind of just watching the game live. Trent Fatano, Zach Frazier, these guys looked really good out there. And we're going to talk about all of those guys. We'll talk about some of the defensive players as well a little bit. A rookie flash, and it's not Jack Sawyer. But let's talk first and foremost about a play that kind of just stood out to me because the Pittsburgh Steelers ran this play twice. They scored 2 touchdowns. Same exact play, same exact concept. And Aaron Rodgers just read it perfectly. I mean, talk about football awareness and IQ from a veteran quarterback. So the Steelers are going to motion in Calvin Austin. He's going to line up behind the offensive line. The defense is thinking they're about to run the football. They're going to run some sort of duo concept. And Calvin Austin, instead of blocking and instead of it actually being a run play, Calvin Austin releases and he's going to influence both the cornerback and the safety. And right underneath that, you're going to have Skronek essentially run wide open. And just like that, 22-yard touchdown off of this play. That's a really, really good design by the offensive coordinator. These are the type of plays that you got to run down in the red zone. Scoring points is very difficult, especially as you get close to the end zone. Phenomenal play, phenomenal design. Now, the New York Jets obviously saw this play early on in the first quarter. They think they have it shut down. If the Pittsburgh Steelers try running this again, they know that the deep crosser is going to have to be taken away. The Steelers showed this same exact play later on in the fourth quarter. The Jets think they have it covered, but this time it's going to be a pass to Calvin Austin. The cornerback bites on the play action. Aaron Rodgers sees it right over the top to Calvin Austin. Literally the same exact play. The Jets even make the adjustment of taking the deep cross away, but it just kind of goes to show you the vision and processing that Aaron Rodgers has. If one defensive back gets out of coverage, Rodgers will essentially crush you, right? He'll find the open guy. And he went on to throw 4 touchdowns for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, it was not a great game by, generally speaking, because the Steelers did struggle to run the football. They also struggled to stop the run. In terms of them not being able to run the football, I think it's important to recognize that the New York Jets have a very, very good defense. That was the number 1 defense just like a year and a half ago. And I know they don't have Robert Saleh, who was a big part of that defense being as good as it was, but they still have a good coaching staff. And the Jets still have a good unit on the defensive side. They have some elite players on that side. And when you think about it from that perspective, for the Steelers to struggle a little bit, I think it kind of makes sense. Also, Aaron Rodgers wasn't there for all of training camp, so it's going to take time for him to kind of adjust to like the offensive line unit. You also bring in guys like DK Metcalf, who in his own right was phenomenal. I mean, talk about this 31-yard screenplay. This should have been literally a gain of nothing. And just like this, one man gets shaken by DK Metcalf, 31 yards, just like that. I mean, talk about being able to make plays. That is an impressive-ass play right there by DK. And I didn't realize this guy was as fast as he is. It almost seems like both DK Metcalf and even Derrick Henry, for as big as these guys are, they're so fast. And it almost seems like safeties and corners don't recognize how fast they are. And they almost kind of misjudge the quickness that these guys have. I mean, DK Metcalf goes from 0 to 100 really quickly, picks up 31 yards on the screenplay. And DK was really, really good yesterday. He only had 4 catches for 83 yards, but I felt like some of the plays he made just came at the right moment. You take that play way later on, I think it was the final drive of the game, that the Steelers had the football where they ended up being the field goal and kind of taking that lead. You get a ball that kind of gets tipped around, and DK Metcalf just happens to be in place, and he catches it, brings it in. Metcalf had a great game yesterday, in my opinion, for what, the Steelers are kind of doing. Aaron Rodgers only had 22 completions. The Steelers even tried to run the football 19 times, even though they weren't really able to find success. And again, the Jets have a good defense. They have a great front seven. They have an elite linebacker, an elite defensive tackle. They have 2 first-round picks at the edge positions. So the Jets have a lot of talent on that defensive side. We will evaluate here in a second why the run game kind of struggled. There was just different things happening on different plays. But first, I want to talk about Broderick Jones a little bit because I did not feel watching that game live, the 3 sacks he was credited with, I did not feel like he had an awful game. And watching the tape back, he really didn't have an off game. He had a pretty damn good game. Now, let's actually break down some of the sacks he did give up, right? He gave up 3 sacks, 1 to Quinnen Williams, 2 to Will McDonald. You can make the argument on this first play here. There are multiple guys that are kind of in the backfield. Aaron Rodgers, there's just nowhere really for him to go. You have a guy coming around the right tackle. You have a linebacker delay blitzing right through the middle. And it almost seems like Aaron Rodgers is trying to climb through the pocket. He's trying to slip past these guys. And it just seems like, because of the fact that Quinnen Williams and Broderick Jones are kind of linked together, Quinnen Williams just happened to be the guy that ends up grabbing onto Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers could have easily tried slipping this to the right, and then Troy Fautanu could have potentially been credited for the sack. Rodgers could have went in different directions in this play, and he just happened to go towards where Broderick Jones was. Now, Jones does technically lose the rep, but do keep in mind, Quinnen Williams is one of the top 5 defensive tackles for a reason. The guy's a really, really good football player. Either way, I think this play, you can say, hey, maybe Rodgers should have thrown it away. Maybe Broderick Jones should have done a better job. You can also say that the Jets kind of just brought a great blitz at the perfect time. The Pittsburgh Steelers are trying to take a shot downfield. And it obviously ended up not working out. On the second sack that Broderick Jones gave up, this one was to Will McDonald. I also didn't feel like this was a terrible rep, again, for Broderick Jones. Yes, he does get pushed back, and he isn't able to anchor down fully on this play, but he does do a pretty good job where the quarterback should be able to get the ball out. Now, obviously, if you guys have followed Aaron Rodgers, if you guys have watched Aaron Rodgers over the years, one of the things this guy does is he always tries to slip past guys. And Aaron Rodgers is not 28 years old. I think the sooner he recognizes it, the sooner he'll stop taking these sacks when he doesn't need to necessarily. And maybe the Steelers just have to make a couple of adjustments on the offensive side. Maybe don't try to take as many shot plays downfield, right? Maybe go to a quick game and those type of parts of your playbook a little bit more often. Not a terrible rep by Broderick Jones. Now, also keep in mind, the slide is going to be to the left of your guys' screen. So, basically, from the left guard to the right tackle, those 4 guys are going to slide, and they're going to have the responsibility of the 3 guys. So, essentially, you have a 4-on-3 over there, and then you have a 1-on-1 for Broderick Jones. And again, Will McDonald, I think he was like the 13th overall pick. I believe he was picked right before Broderick Jones was picked. So, he's a good football player, and I think he's going to break out this season as well. Will McDonald ends up getting the sack. He kind of bull rushes Broderick Jones. Again, I don't think it's a terrible rep for Broderick Jones, but it is still a sack at the end of the day. The third play was a bad play by Broderick, and there's no excuse for this one. The offense is going to run play action. All the offensive linemen are going to jump set this, and the offensive linemen sell this as they would sell a duo concept. So the left guard and center end up going to one guy. Broderick Jones tries stepping towards Will McDonald, and McDonald just jumps straight to the inside. And there's just nothing you can do if you're Broderick Jones. If there's one thing Broderick does struggle with right now, and I do think it's something he can correct over time because he does have, elite athleticism. He has great movement. Right now, he doesn't, he'll move his body one way and he thinks about stuff like, I'm going to move this way. And a guy jumps to the inside and he just doesn't process it fast enough. But he has the quickness in his footwork to get to the inside, right? If a guy tries to spin off of him or whatever, he can mirror guys well. He has good footwork. And he has the quickness. He has the athletic profile to be able to stay in front of guys. But sometimes, you get a jump set and he jumps outwards and the guy goes inside. He just doesn't process it quick enough. So there's little things that he has to continue to kind of clean up. But generally speaking, I felt like he looked pretty damn good out there. There are multiple plays where I watched Broderick Jones and said, that's a phenomenal rep. He gets on top of a guy and he just shuts it down. You see it play in, play out. Broderick Jones having good reps. And again, don't sleep on the fact that the New York Jets have a very good defensive line. Jet fans literally will tell you they have one of the best defensive lines in the entire NFL. I do think they're a top 10 unit. So just kind of keep that in mind. Will McDonald, I think, is really good. Quinnen Williams, phenomenal player as well. So just don't sleep on the Jets defensive line. I do think that's one of the factors as to why the Steelers struggle to run the football a little bit. I want to just show you guys a couple of examples really quickly as well of some of what happened on different plays. We'll go ahead and just look at 4 random run plays in which the Steelers ended up picking up no yards or losing yards. We'll look at this first one here. You're going to get an outside zone towards the left of the formation. If you guys keep an eye on number 56, the linebacker, he's going to end up beating the center and he's going to end up getting into the run fit. Now, here's the thing with this play. As the quarterback's going to set the tight end into motion, the linebacker's going to start taking steps to the right. So he's going to essentially get a jump start on what the play is going to end up being. So he's already kind of sliding over towards the right. He sees the center, tries to reach block him, and he just jumps the gap. And then for the running back, there's kind of nowhere to go. On this next one, you're going to have a mid-zone run, and the double team between the left guard, left tackle is not great. Quinnen Williams is going to end up holding up Broderick Jones. Samala does not give him a great double team block, and you can see that Quinnen Williams is going to set up to the inside of Broderick Jones. Now, there's not a whole lot you can do on these type of plays because of the fact that Quinnen Williams is just a great football player. So if you guys think about this play, center, right guard, right tackle, all set up to the inside of these three defensive linemen. But because of the fact that Quinnen Williams is on the inside of Broderick Jones, there's going to be nowhere for the running back to go. There's literally no run gap that essentially is going to come open. And you see that running back ends up just picking up no yards on this one. Another factor as to why the Steelers struggle to run the football, the Jets are a team that's going to essentially stack the box almost on every single play. This team's literally going to tell you, go throw the football because we're not going to let you run it. Now, not everybody takes this approach, but of course, the Jets do, right? They're going to stack the box. They're not going to allow you to have any gap that's essentially not going to have a guy kind of containing it. You know, some teams will keep two safeties deep, and they'll have one of those safeties essentially play the run, but maybe from like 10, 15 yards depth. That's not the Jets, right? They're going to play one safety deep. They're going to stack the box, and they're not going to let you run the football. So just understand that there wasn't a whole lot the Steelers could have done from a schematic perspective. The Jets stacked the box. They shut down the run. This is just what the Jets do. Now, of course, the Steelers will have opportunities as we go forward. They'll play teams that are going to say, hey, Aaron Rodgers threw 4 touchdowns on the Jets. The Jets obviously were not able to get off the field. The Steelers put up 34 points. So let's not take that same approach. Let's maybe play a 2-split safety shell. Overall, it's just little things that they got to kind of clean up. Zach Frazier looked elite out there. All right, truth be told, this guy is kind of the guy that we expected him to be. Last year we watched Frazier and he just looked good, right? Play in, play out. He looked really good, really impressive. And he's just continued to take those steps. And I think at this point, Zach Frazier might be an elite. Like you can say he's an elite center. Yesterday he played, I believe it was over 60 snaps. He gave up 0 sacks, 0 quarterback hits, and 0 pressures. Literally, the guy gave up nothing, right? Just to shut it down, essentially. Frazier, to me, looked really, really impressive yesterday. And one of the things that really stood out to me was his reach block ability and like kind of the angles he takes, which isn't surprising if you guys have watched this channel. You know, we've done the film breakdown on Frazier in the past. The guy takes elite angles. He knows how to get in front of guys. He knows how to cut people off. But it was just a little bit more on display because some of the positive runs the Steelers did have, like you could just see Frazier doing a good job. Troy Fautanu also did a really nice job on some of these run plays. He's able to cut people off. He did a pretty nice job in pass pro as well. Mason McCormick looks like arguably the best lineman that the Steelers have. And I shouldn't say that given you have Zach Frazier, but Mason McCormick, man, he looks really, really good. And you can tell he took like that year or two leap this season. I think as he continues to develop, between Fautanu, McCormick, and then even Zach Frazier, you're going to have 3 really good offensive linemen out there. Broderick Jones still has to develop. We'll see what he develops into. He's the one guy that I'm not 100% sure if he'll develop into like a top 10 guy at their position. But I'm pretty sure Frazier, McCormick, and Fautanu will all develop into top 10 guys at their positions, right? Right tackle, right guard, center. Broderick Jones is the only guy I'm not 100% sure with. Sometimes, a guy can flash, but until you get super consistent, you'll have struggles. And we still kind of see that with Broderick Jones. Generally speaking, I feel like the offensive line was pretty solid. Given that it was a tough game going against the New York Jets, it's not a home game for the Steelers also, right? That makes it very difficult. At the end of the day, the Steelers still got the win. So there are small things you can clean up as you kind of go forward, but a win's a win. And to me, that's all you kind of look at when you look at some of these games. Now let's talk a little bit about the defense. The Steelers gave up 32 points yesterday against the Jets. Some people looked at TJ Watt's game and I hate that people do this, but for some reason they do this all the time. People will look at TJ Watt and say, hey, how many sacks does this guy have? How many quarterback hits did he have? Oh, he didn't have as many. And, you look at the Jets and the fact that they've invested in those offensive tackles, and people will say the offensive tackles just shut down TJ Watt. But when you put the tape on, TJ Watt had multiple good runs. And also, Justin Fields is not known as a passing quarterback. He's known as a quarterback that wants to run the football. That idea, right, that, hey, this quarterback wants to run, that's going to slow down the pass rush. So TJ Watt may not have had 4 or 5 sacks, but the guy still had a good game. He's still getting after the quarterback. He pressured the quarterback. He had probably 3 or 4 run reps. And I'll just show you guys a couple of these. This first one here, TJ Watt has a backside chase. It's going to be an outside zone to the left, and Watt just straight up chases this play down. And this one loses 2 yards. There's another play in which Watt ends up just getting right past his blocker. The running back gets the football. This one loses 4 yards. To me, this is some of what TJ Watt does, right? In the 4-yard loss, sure, he may not have been the guy that officially gets credit for the tackle for loss, but he's the guy that initially blows it up. He's the guy that causes that havoc in the backfield. And again, Watt was very impressive out there against the run. And the social media narrative that at least I've seen, and tell me if you guys have kind of seen this as well, it's that TJ Watt did not have a good game against the rookie tackle. And don't think that I don't think Armin Membau's a great prospect. He was my number 1 offensive tackle coming out. Olaf Shanu was also my number 1 offensive tackle the year before, but Alex Highsmith had multiple good reps against Fashanu. In fact, I think he had 1 sack where he just beat him right off the snap and gets into the backfield, takes the quarterback down. It was a huge sack in that moment of the game. Both Highsmith and TJ Watt had a phenomenal game. I know it might not have been from like a sack production, but the guys made plays when it mattered. Guys made tackles in the backfield. They made it difficult for the Jets. And I feel like the Jets also had a couple of big plays that I feel like for the Steelers, you have to be able to shut some of these things down. And I want to just kind of talk about some of these big plays that the Steelers kind of gave up. Ready, guys? Let's go ahead and just get into a couple of these big plays. So on this one here, nose tackle, Keanu Benton has to do a better job. He's going to end up slipping, I believe, over the left guard. And that slip right there, the fact that he ends up going down, is going to allow Breece Hall to hit this play for an 18-yard run. Now, the front side does a pretty damn good job. You're going to see the linebacker jumps the gap here, and he's going to end up setting that front side. So Breece Hall is not going to be able to run this to the left. But on this play, what ends up happening is, because of the fact that Benton ends up falling down here, the right guard does a great job with the double team. Benton falls down, and you can see the gap just opens up right underneath that. Of course, Breece Hall is also a good running back, sees that lane, and this one ends up popping for 18 yards. So you got to do a better job by not going down if you're Benton. Check this next play out. You're going to get 16 yards on this one by Breece Hall. Again, very, very, very solid vision. The linebacker just ends up getting lost as he's coming downhill and setting his run fit. This looks like duo to me. It's a power run based concept. You just have to do a better job if you're Malik Harrison, the inside linebacker, because he actually does do a good job getting in his run fit. Watch him set up inside the B gap here. He has to keep his head up. Obviously, that's why he ends up not making the play. But this is a good job, right? He's taking on the guard. He's setting up inside this gap. But you got to be able to get your head up and get that arm free and make that play. Now, you can also make the argument that the edge player here, Alex Highsmith, has to do a better job not allowing Olu Fashanu to push him towards the left, right? Push him out of that gap. Because by this guy getting pushed to the left, that's going to widen the gap here. Let's make the assumption Highsmith holds his ground right here. This gap is not going to be as wide for the running back. So Highsmith ends up coming in. He fits the run, but the gap gets widened because Alex Highsmith does not do a good job setting the front side edge. And it just widens. You can just see that kind of open up. This one popped for 16 yards. Now you can see on this one, the linebackers are going to end up kind of getting out of this gap here. But also do understand this is a light box. So this is one of those situations where we just talked about it on the other side, where the Jets will never come out in a light box. But the Steelers definitely will, right? The Steelers want to shut down the deep passing by any given team. Now on this one here, obviously Wilson just ends up, he's kind of talking to Patrick Queen. They're not set, they're trying to communicate, they're trying to figure it out. This is little things you got to kind of clean up, right? Not a huge deal. Also, TJ Watt almost grabs onto the running back. So if he's able to make this play does not pick up the yards it ultimately does pick up. So again, it's just the little things that I feel like the Steelers have to kind of figure out and just kind of clean up. I don't think as we go into next week, you're going to say, hey, the Steelers are going to give up 32 points. In fact, they might not give up 32 points for the rest of the season. The Steelers on the defensive side will be okay as they kind of go forward. I think guys just got to kind of, figure things out. And from a defensive perspective, I think one of the key things will also be figuring out the rotation on the defensive line. Yaya Black, the rookie, I don't even know if he's like a nose tackle or if he's just a defensive tackle. The guy's massive, man. 6'5", 300 plus pounds. the guy had multiple run reps where like he just blew right through the guy that was trying to block him. Right, he stands him up and he just kind of gets right through there. He had, I think, 3 or 4 tackles, and he only played 26 snaps, so it's not like he played a lot of snaps. But for being a rookie, the guy looks pretty damn good, and I didn't see this guy flash like this in the preseason. So that's an interesting thing to kind of keep in mind. Yaya Black looked pretty damn good out there. TJ Watt did his thing. Alex Heisman. Peyton Willis also looked good. He was flying around, making tackles, had a couple tackle for losses, got into the quarterback's passing lanes a couple times. And, of course, with Justin Fields, you take off running or whatever it is. Also, Jalen Ramsey, man. You got to give a huge shout out to Jalen Ramsey. He makes the play of the game, which basically wins the game for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But even before that, man, like, he was just all over it, right? He had multiple positive plays. He's in coverage. The quarterback looks that way. Sees that Jalen Ramsey's kind of all over Garrett Wilson or whoever else is out there. And the quarterback looks away. And that's sometimes the factor that kind of gets overlooked when you look at cornerbacks. When a quarterback looks out towards the corner and a corner's all over that wide receiver, the quarterback looks away. He's going to take off running, or he's going to go down to his check down or whatever it might be. And then no one ever recognizes that the corner is making it hard for the quarterback. So it's just something to kind of keep in mind. Jalen Ramsey had a phenomenal game. Obviously, basically wins the game with the play that he made. Obviously, the kicker kicked, what was it, like a 61-yard field, maybe having 60 yards exactly. Phenomenal kick, right? 60-yard field goal. Aaron Rodgers obviously got them kind of down in position as well. And then the defense stepped up and they got the stop when it mattered, right? So shout out to the Pittsburgh Steelers, corner, specifically Jalen Ramsey. And I hope you guys enjoy this video, man. Just the format that I will probably be doing going forward if you guys actually enjoy it. Let me know down in the comments below if you guys enjoyed this format as opposed to the general format where we only look at like the offensive line or defensive line. This video does take longer, but from the feedback that I've gotten, people enjoyed this content more, where we can kind of talk about multiple different things as opposed to just like 1 or 2 units. Maybe just talk about the offensive line or whatever. In this video, we were able to kind of cover multiple topics. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time with another video.